Let's go.
But this one's gonna be stuff we've haven't really ever covered, because I know last time we covered like indie comics, and the first time you were on like your band and everything and your life growing up. The second time was more about like Godzilla and talking about how bad the government really is, and well, Godzilla ended up succeeding and the government will definitely not, as we just saw with Donald Trump's conviction in quotations. Like really, that might be the most biggest technicality in anything, whatever say the word conviction in that. And now we're going to talk about crazy Rippaverse retards. So I guess we've all come full circle now at this point.
Yeah, that's a lot of good topics.
Well, what's really interesting is, like, given you guys have had like a lot of success crowdfunding, there are some really weird people that don't like when other people are successful at crowdfunding, even on like the lower tier of the indie scene. They just see it as like, this person is not deserving, like, it's like, what the hell? We're just trying to fund like a passion project out here, It's not that big a deal, But how you been doing, man? What's been going on with you?
I've been doing well. It's been, honestly, it's been a lot of work and a lot of craziness lately. We were just in DC. We were at the LP National Convention, and that had a host of crazy things going on because Trump was there, RFK was there, Vivek was there, Ron Paul was there, Thomas Massey was there, me and my wife were there, a ton of other crazy people were there. It was a wild time. We were there shooting a music video as well. So we shot a new music video, and then we were tabling with the comic and our books at that event. And then after that, it's just been like nonstop going with a whole bunch of different projects and rolling through things. We got so much coming up. It's really, it's getting actually overwhelming, honestly.
Yeah, because outside of Voltanuarists, you have another, I think you said, children's book series that you guys want to do. How is that coming along? Is that still in like the planning stages, or you got that already done so far?
Yeah. I have Voluntarius, the comic. Our kids book, the first one came out a little bit back, and we're currently working on the sequel to it. So that's under production right now. We're working on the pages. We've been working heavily on getting the next Voluntarius campaign stuff done. And actually, we're planning to launch the next single that is, solo title series, Voluncat One Shot. So we're going to be launching a new, character, and her having her own series as well, on top of everything else that we're doing with, these other productions and music and other stuff like that. So it's been a lot.
Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah. Cause I think the last time you were on for a second appearance, we were in like episode 300 or something like that, somewhere around there, if I remember correctly. Now we're going to be hitting 500 very soon. I don't know what we're going to do for the special. We might just do the same shit we're doing now, just chilling, honestly. I was thinking about, man, I'm going to have like some big guests on. Yeah, that's not really how that works, actually. You got to contact people, and it's just, and since these shows are kind of planned in advance, I don't know exactly what day the number will itself be on, because I don't know who I've planned before that, around that period. Oh, God, it's just too much when it comes to planning this stuff out.
That's a lot of shows. 100 is quite a lot. So congrats on that. That's crazy. A lot of people don't hit that for years, So
yeah, the other show we have, the podcast for League of Legends, that's going to be in its 12th season very soon. So, proud of where the shows have gotten to, because I've learned a lot over the years of podcasting and learning like different ways you do it, how you speak to people. Before, I was completely carried by people. I'm not even kidding there. People straight up carried me when I first started doing this, but you learn to get better over time. And I always tell people, I couldn't do this alone. Like I'm not that interesting enough of a person to do this alone. Like people like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, they can do it on their own for like an hour. I can't. Like if it's a pre-recorded video, I can easily do that. I can easily knock that out. But if it's a live stream where I do it off the cuff, I can't do it. I know my strengths and weaknesses. That's the big thing that people don't understand, man. When you get older, you start to notice your strengths and weaknesses, and you're like, you know what? I could probably try to improve on a weakness, but it's not. If you know you're not good at it, you gotta just find ways around it. Like I know I'm not that interesting enough to hold a show for an hour live talking to people. Just not gonna be something I'm gonna be able to do, honestly. Well, how has crowdfunding gone for you with the other last Voltanuarists issue? Because you had your debut of your villain character that happened in the last book, right?
Yeah, on the last Voluntariist, we had great success. I was very fortunate enough to have the blessing of Eric July on that. In fact, through one of the 3 campaigns that he funded, he picked out 3 different people
I
to
remember
do
that. Yeah.
the support on, and that was incredible. That really just made my whole year.
Mhm.
And so because of that, we had a really successfully funded comic, especially on Fund My Comic, because it drew some attention there too, because we had both Indiegogo and Fund My Comic at the same time. So we did around 15K total for that, and I expect it to grow even more now. I think we're going to probably hit that exponential mark, going forward, where things are going to get really big. Just looking at what we've created in the fan base and people getting really excited about it and finally getting bought in, because there's enough of a story now. It's not just the first issue. We have pretty lengthy backstory to everything now, so people are really sticking their teeth in it and getting excited for the next stuff. So we'll probably be doing an expansion next time as well. We'll probably be having the campaigns on Indiegogo and Fund My Comic last time, and I think we may even do Kickstarter as well. So we might run it simultaneously in all 3.
And have the Trinity all going at the same time.
Yeah, definitely want to reach out to more people on different platforms and things like that. And it just comes with the nature of it. Some people just prefer a certain platform, and I found actually that it was useful to have Fund My Comic and Indiegogo at the same time, because there were certainly advantages to using both and reaching more people who would prefer a certain platform. So.
Yeah, that's the thing when it comes to like all these other platforms, is people just kind of like prefer to have one. But as we've seen with gaming now, I think that whole like exclusivity that a lot of these places ended up having, it's not going to happen anymore, or at least it won't be as big as it used to be. Because back in the day when you had exclusivity with one thing, it was kind of like this, like, oh, it's a prestige thing. Now it just doesn't fucking matter, because basically it's all just, I don't know, it's like 2 sides of the same coin. That's the saying, right? It's all the same shit, really. It's just like kind of like, which do you prefer for the most part? Some have pros, some have like pros you like, some have cons you dislike. Like the platform that I see with the biggest potential that has gotten people most of their money has been Indiegogo, because I think Fund My Comic is still so new that it's hard to, they're still in that stage of like drawing people to the website. Kickstarter's been really good for like novels too. Comics don't do that well on there from what I've seen. It just depends on who it is. Actually, like if people are writing novels, it's been doing very well. Because sometimes in my free time, I'm just like crazy and demented. I go and do and just look at like campaigns and stuff like that. I'm like, novels do very well in here. Well, romance novels do, because women like reading about hot, sexy guys to save them from their problems. I don't know how that goes with girls anymore at this point. But shoot, since you've now done it for so long, well, what do you have any like things you want to do now that there are? Because on Voltanaris, you said you already had that already mapped out. So do you have any other like other characters in that universe you want to do like books on at this point?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the entire voluntarist universe essentially has a cadre of characters who could have their own standalone issues. And we developed some of those in this last campaign. We had extra bonus prints, including one called Libertas. So we really want to develop some more of our gunslinging characters into their own product lines, because I love guns and shooting guns and stuff like that. So I wanted to have some characters that would be fun like that. And Voluncap's the first in that series, but we certainly want to expand the titles more and more. So we're going to see how this first one goes. And I anticipate it's going to be popular, because just the character, the designs, the intrigue of this, having this character who's a professional shooter, a competition shooter, that as far as I know has never been done before. And that's kind of unique, is you have a lot of characters who are gunslingers, but maybe they're like ex-military or ex-CIA or something, or maybe they're just a cowboy, but there's not too much out there in terms of someone who's a professional competition shooter, a private competition shooter. So that I thought would be unique to bring to the table and do right. And her character, of course, just looks awesome and epic and beautiful. So I think people are going to be really intrigued by it. We've already done some work on it, and the work we've done, it surpassed even my expectations. Even I was like, whoa, okay, this looks amazing. So we'll see how that all comes out.
When you mentioned that Eric picked one of your campaigns out of the ones that he did, was Project Oasis, yours, I think it was another person, I can't remember. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And it was weird, because that day specifically is because people just only see like the tail end of a Twitter thread, right? So people don't even remember what even happened that day. Basically, like someone else was arguing with someone else. Another person just That's what Twitter is. Twitter is like when you're having arguments with like your friend, that one random guy you're not even talking to, you don't even give a fuck what he says, jumps in randomly and says, here's just my opinion. And that's what kind of what happened. And people know, I like Immortal Rising. I think he's an awesome guy. I've had him on the show. But he did kind of just like randomly step into a conversation he had no real business being in, just to say shit that was like, well, you don't know what it's like for us other real indies out here. It's pretty much, I remember exactly almost what that quote tweet was. It was I was paraphrasing a little bit, and it's like, dude, that's not what the conversation was even about. And then obviously I've talked to Mortal Rising. I didn't know he was using his Fund My Comic thing for a storefront. I didn't know that. I thought it just wasn't funded. So then Eric went there. He donated money to it. How would Eric know that? First of all, he was like, people were like, he just threw money on it. First of all, I didn't even know that. I talked to the man on the show. So average people are going to be like, this didn't fund. He sent the money back. And the reason why I disagree with him sending the money back is because, like, let's be honest here, dude. A lot of people out here, I'm not saying beg for money. Not, well, Vonster, he blitz balls, he begs for money. Not everyone unlike him. People literally ask people to support their campaigns constantly. Like, that's, people literally ask for money here constantly. For the campaigns. That $700 that Eric gave him quite literally is worth about, like, how many backers do you think that's worth? Potentially, like, what? 10, 20 backers? Potentially?
Yeah.
Yeah. You could pay your artists, you could pay artists some extra money. You could pay your, just anyone that's on the team some extra money. Hey, we got this big donation here. This could be used for anything. Maybe you use it for some bills so you can take that extra money you have and put it into your comic campaign. I just don't get why he sent the money back. It made no sense. And then EVS retweeted it. And he's like, man, he threw your money back at you. Then the people that he likes gave him the money back. So it kind of worked out for him, and it kind of didn't in a way. I just don't understand the reason to give the money back on an assumption that Eric would know these things when he clearly wouldn't. The average person is not going to know that stuff, you know? And I don't know what the comment was about. You're not grinding it here like the us real indies do. Just because I don't even know what that even means. I don't know what that stuff, what does this mean? Like I don't get this in life, man. Where like if a person just doesn't want to be involved with that shit, people just assume they're a bad person because they don't want to be involved. I tell people, you know this about me, man. I tell people all the time, I don't really like interacting with people on like outside, like outside of doing these shows and stuff on the internet, like the podcast. I don't really interact with people in real life like that, you know. And I choose to most just be alone. It's kind of a life choice I decided. Why is it that if someone is like, hey, I'm doing my own thing this way and I'm not trying to get involved with anybody else, why is that just automatically not good? Like, why can't we just respect the person's decision? If he doesn't want to get involved with promoting people, you don't have to. It's not a gun to your head, you know? I just wanted to get your thoughts on that because it was a really weird situation. I mean, Ben benefited you. You got to shout out Eric's channel is quite literally massive. So, I mean, his misfortune and bad decision gave you a lot more light on your projects, and then his fans who didn't know you existed came and supported you. So it worked out for you. But what was your general thoughts on how that went down?
Yeah, and I've actually talked to him as well about his show. I thought that was a bad move on his end. I think that you don't get too many opportunities like that, no matter who it is. And even if you're like, well, I don't want to, look like I'm being bought or I'm just being told, paid to shut up. It's like, when you have a chance to do something with that, you should make the most of it. It's not every day that you're going to give someone, you're going to have someone give you the ability to take, a large sum of money, at least, compared to what he had already had on there, and to be able to use that for whatever it is you want to do. So I think that was a bad move, in terms of just giving up the opportunity that could have been, for him there. And I am glad though, in the end, he got a little bit of support from people who just didn't like what Eric did. And of course we got supported in the group.
Yeah.
Of people like, oh, okay, who do you want? All the end, it's all good. I don't care. But, but for me, no, I would not waste an opportunity like that. If someone's wanted to support me that way for whatever reason, I'm like, great. You know what? Thank you so much. And I'm going to use that to
continue. Do you know how much art costs here? I know you know these things. Great. Art costs a lot of money, people. Mm-hmm. It costs Marvel in DC. We know the page rates now. The information was leaked to me a while ago. They page, depending on what title and how much money they want to negotiate with you, it's $60 to $80 a page. Okay, so 80 times 24, it's not like $1,000, roughly like 1,020. Oh, just for a page, just for $80 a page. I think that's like the artist rate, actually. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. These are major publishers here. And people in the incoming scene generally have to shell out a lot more money. Not saying that that's disrespectful, but you just have to shell out more money because obviously art is what really brings people to the campaign. People say, well, what matters more, writing or art? Well, the art is, since comics are a visual medium, art matters more because that's what's going to get people's eyes on the books. The writing, if it's good, people will stay. Obviously, that's just how it's going to go. But if the art, that's why most indie comics, if you see on their pie charts, most of the money obviously is going to the art. He easily could have paid off half of what his artist has been getting right there. I'm not sure. I don't know if he does the one that does the art, but you could, the money, like just right there, it can be used for so many good uses. It's stupid to give it up. It's just dumb, you know? And it's not like you're being bought and paid for. Free, so I'll be bought and paid for $700. Oh my goodness, that's take free money. I'll take it. Like, I just don't understand.
There's no real strings to it. That, you know, I mean,
yeah.
You know, he gave the money. There's nothing else after that to be obligated to. So that's why it was just silly, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, art costs, I mean, those rates you gave are way under what decent art costs. Real decent art costs hundreds of dollars per page, actually. If you're actually having, you know, an alt mainstream level competitive artist, even hiring international. And I've been working with artists, literally over 50 plus artists over 12 plus years, internationally and domestically. And I've done many request for proposals, including to third-party companies and to direct artists. And I have a team right now that I manage different 7, 8 people. So the artwork costs are much higher than that for sure, especially if you want top quality work. So yeah, I mean, that's just it, is, you know, you can't make your comic come to life unless you have all those skills, and most people don't, you know. And even as you know, normally when a comic is made, there's typically several people in the art team. You might have a penciler, an inker, a flatter, you know, a color detailer, a letterer, writer. You know, you could potentially have a co-writer. I mean, you could be easily having 5 or 7 people just to create one comic potentially. It's very rare that someone is going to be everything top to bottom, writing and doing the art start to finish. And those people are usually like, you know, comic gods, essentially. If you can do all those things at a high level, you're like one of the best, you know, in the world, as you can imagine, if you could do all those things well. And it's just, you know, more often to find someone who specializes in it. And even if they could, some people just don't want to do it. They prefer just to work on pencil. So they prefer just to do colors. So, you know, it's a very difficult process, and no one who's in this space, you know, is you know, lazy about anything when it comes to creating their projects. It takes serious work to manage that, and to go back and forth with the artists, and to communicate, and to showcase what you want, and to, you know, have quality control. And that's so hard in itself, you know, just trying to keep things together and make sure everything gets done right. Because people, I think, have this misconception that artists are just magically perfect and good and know things, right? It's not true, actually. Artists just like anything else. Just like you could have someone that serves, you know, McDonald's to you, and they forgot your fries. Artists could be like, oh, here's what we want to do. They create something, and oh, they forgot this element. That, you know, artists themselves are imperfect. They sometimes need art guidance, sometimes a proportions adjustment or a colors adjustment, or they forgot something that you specifically said. And that's fine. That's normal working stuff. And you got to, you know, be respectful and polite as you talk to artists, just like you'd expect an into business thing to, you know, understand that happens and it's normal, and you work together, and that's all. But it's a serious and very difficult thing to do, and it takes a lot of time to get it right. So.
The other thing that people don't realize when it comes to artists is that they are very weird people. I don't know what art, like, not all artists, obviously, but I would go 90. I say 95% of artists are just weird people. They have weird ways of looking at things that are not normal. I swear. You remember last year, people were like, well, do you want me to just start putting on McDonald's quality? Okay, so if you guys people don't understand this, because these people went with this too, so you can just easily flip in their head. When people loved Marvel and DC, those books came out on time. Every month, okay? So yes, you do have to do things on time. When you go, let's say your car broke down and you needed a new tire. Well, when you go to the mechanic, you want that he says, hey, I'm gonna have this done in an hour. That needs to be done in an hour, because you're angry because your car's not fixed. You know, I don't even know why that would be a mindset in someone's brain when that's not how work works at all. Even let's use public transportation, the bus. The buses have to be there because people got to get to work. You have to be there at that time. Or if you're late, then you're going to be late. I really don't get why that was even a big discussion when anyone with any clear level of work ethic knows you have to do things on time. That's just how any business functions. You know, and then some people said, well, art takes a little bit longer. And yes, you can take your own time, but at least have like a deadline for I'm going to get this done. It's not like you get to do whatever you want. You know, people want to work for Marvel and DC, but want to put out shit like in a 2 year. No, that's not how that works. I'm sorry, it's just not how that works. If you want to get things done, you have to do things on time. You just do. Now, if the product comes out bad or good, that's the audience to decide that. But you yourself just can't be just like, well, I'll just do it whenever I fucking want to. It's not how that works. Like, you'll have no people want to work with you at all if you have a bad work. That's just a bad work ethic. You know, it's like being at a job and someone is really good at their job, but they don't always come in. They're always late. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, the person's good, but this person's late, but the person that's super consistent is not as good, but he's always here. It's like, who are you going to value more? Like, I'm valuing the guy that's more consistent, that's coming in on time. Sorry. Being late is bad. It's just always been a negative thing. Like, no one likes someone that's late. I just don't even get why that's a mindset anywhere in the space. Well, I'm taking my time to make quality about a book no one's gonna read. Great, good job. You're really beating Marvel and DC about that.
Yeah,
I always forget my fries.
Quality is definitely important. Obviously that, and I would say, you know, being on time is also important in the business sense. When it comes to quality art, you know, for myself, certainly, if I'm going to err, I usually will err on making sure things are done right over time. If I have, you know, some wiggle room, but I've had to fire groups before, not work with a certain artist in the past when, you know, I had a deadline. I gave them a little extension. I said, okay, well, let's take 2 extra weeks. You can do this. And they still don't do things right or in time. Then that's it. It's over. You know what I mean? I try to give grace, you know, where it's needed just to get something done. And I'm reasonable about it, but there's always going to be limits because obviously people, when they make purchases, they expect it to be delivered by a certain time. And if it's not within that window, then you're going to be in trouble and then you're going to look bad. Even if your artist, you know, made some decent art, if you take that too far, it doesn't matter. People are going to be, you know, done with your brand, especially if you say, hey, I'm going to deliver this in 6 months and it's been a year or 2 years and you haven't delivered your comic. Well, who cares if the art's good? They're going to be like, yeah, I don't want to buy from this person anymore. They don't deliver when they say they're going to by a wide margin. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The average, these people truly don't understand what the average person's thinking when they make any purchase, what they generally think. I'm pretty sure you know this because Steve Jobs or Wozniak, one of them when they made Apple, chose to have the mindset of, I'm going to see what the customers want, then I'll just kind of work with the business around what the customers want, you know? Because if you satisfy your customers, they'll keep coming back no matter what. You have guaranteed people for life at that point. You know, I understand things can be late, like printing and shipping. That stuff I think people can be very forgiving about. That's an understandable thing. You know, I think people are willing to even wait about it good. Like you said before, I think 6 months is the max where that caps out at. Even about, I'll say, even, someone was like, oh, I was 2 weeks ago at the campaign. I was like, okay, 2 weeks is nothing. Like, that's nothing. You know, if someone's like 2 weeks, 2 months, 6 months late, that's understandable. You could have any delays. When you start creeping into like year-long territory, that's just like, because people don't know there's a lot of time in a day. There's 24 hours in a day. There's a lot of stuff you can get done. If the person's not getting it done, that's kind of like, that's pretty suspect, you know? There's a lot. And people say, well, do I have to dedicate all my time to drawing? Yes. How do you think you get good at? First of all, if you want leisure, people want leisure, free time, and they also want to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, no, there's some of the best people that have ever been really proficient at something. Yeah, they don't have free time. You put all your work into this. If you really want it that bad enough, you want to be really, really good, you put your whole head into getting it done. Like I said before, when you did your comic the first time, all you could think about, you said, was that you just want to get this done. It's like, I'll say your wife, obviously. The other thing you were thinking about the most, which is getting stuff done. You know, it's all you're going to think about when you're a creative person is, I want to make sure this is the best it can be. This is all I'm thinking about. I'll have sleepless nights to make sure I'm getting this done. You know, average people don't have that mindset, you know, and that's what kind of separates some people's stuff getting funded versus what doesn't get funded, actually, you know?
Yeah, you have to be very dedicated and driven to reaching your goal and to never lose sight of that focus and to always be reorienting yourself and making sure that what you're doing is actually keep you on track for what that is and you're not getting distracted or getting tied up with things. And people who get readily distracted or jump to too many ideas and don't settle on something to really grind toward, they'll never get anything accomplished because they haven't taken the time to steward toward at least one thing that they can build on and build something out of, you know, and continue to steward that. So
the next thing I wanted to ask is Rippaverse haters. I don't think have we ever talked about them on here? I don't think so. Generally, yeah, it's so weird that still, even after all this time, these people are this crazy. over a guy making a comic book. You think that if you told people what was going on, this man would be out there like, I don't know, roundhouse kicking a grandma in Walmart or something like that. You think by the way people talk about this guy, straight up like, man, it's out here in Walmart just slapping little girls in the fucking aisles or something. Like, it's people, these people are just sort of demented. Now I just make videos laughing at them because it's just funny. Like, yeah, I think people saw what I just did recently.
Mhm.
People got mad at the company for offering a PayPal Pay in 4 option.
Right.
That,
Yeah, that's silly.
that arguably has to be top 5 dumbest things I've ever heard someone get mad over. A
Yeah.
buy now, pay later option that you don't willingly even have to opt into.
Right.
This world is terrible. This world is
Yeah. And it's silly because it's like, people think in only terms of, oh, someone can't afford groceries for their children and they're going to get this figure instead. A lot of people might just be like, no, I just don't want to put it in a lump sum. It's like, I just want to have it a little bit each month over the course of several months and just, keep my cash liquid. So you have more cash on hand to use for whatever, just in case, because sometimes it's good to be cash liquid just in case you need it for something else. And it keeps you, having that taken out right away. And as you know, with inflation, cash just keeps getting less and less valuable anyway. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah. These same people don't know. Good Lord, people are so fucking dumb. Credit cards are quite literally the ultimate buy now, pay later thing that I know everyone has. Okay. I mean, the fact that people even have 3 to 7 year loan payments on their cars goes to show you that the average person uses layaway options on things. And you had that one guy and he was like, well, if you don't have the money up front, just don't buy it, save for it. That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. These people, no one functions like that. No one going up to like a new car dealership. I want a new Dodge Charger. All right, it's 20K. You got 20K? No, but I can pay it off in about 5 years. That's good enough too. It's the same shit. It's literally the exact same thing. You get there, you get your item, you pay it off, or you buy it up front, and then you have your item. It makes no difference. They get their money, or your car gets repoed, and they still get your money. It's not a problem at all. I don't even know why that's an issue when it's such a non-issue. That, like, oh God, man, crazy people just making arguments out of nothing. Like, means they're like, oh, we're gonna go into debt supporting Eric. First of all, that'd be your fault, not his. Yeah, because it's always someone else's fault, not yours, actually. Yeah, it's real classic human behavior there. Blame everything else but yourself. Yeah.
Right. I mean, of course, there's something to be said about financial security and taking care of your needs and not going into debt for things, that are not important. That's just, like good self, business practice or financial practice to take care of yourself and to make sure that, you're able to pay what you need. But yes, of course, people buy things all the time where they may not pay it up front or it's a pre-order thing or this or that. It just depends on someone's subjective satisfactions, and people have different reasons why they may, want to have it down. The figure itself doesn't even get shipped till way later anyway. You know what I'm saying? So the figure itself is a long-term production thing because they have to have McFarlane actually do the mass manufacture. So if you're like, hey, I just want to lock this down for whatever reason early, with the payment thing, and you're not getting it till later anyway, because it has to be manufactured. Really, what's the big deal?
You'd have it paid off by then. By the time the figures even shipped to you, you'd have it paid off by then.
Right, you would have it paid off exactly. So, and it just might just be just someone's personal circumstances. They're just like, yeah, I don't want to have $500 at once out of my bank. I want to, keep a little extra cash buffer for emergencies. So I want to keep it, a little bit of my spending money for the next 5 months or 4 months or whatever goes toward that thing. Just, I mean, it's just normal stuff. It's not that weird. But of course, everyone should be responsible with whatever it is, they do otherwise, don't go into debt you can't afford to pay and make sure that you can take care of your needs and take care of your health. And then that's good,
It also even shows financial responsibility on that person. They know, hey, probably can't get this all at once, but I can pay it off over time. I don't see why the other ones look down and the other ones not. Like, I'm not really out here trying to flex and feel, oh man, I bought this brand new Chevy Camaro all at once, and now I have no money in my bank account. Now I can't buy food. It's like, nobody cares. Like, make the best financial options for yourself. If you can't, like average people, if you can't afford something, you just don't get it. That's just how it works, Or you simply just, how much money you get, and you just pay it off later. It's just, God, I swear, some of these idiots are just beyond stupid. Like, they say things that are just actually so mind-numbing, my brain almost just falls apart. But God, what's some of the like top favorite ones you've heard? That's gonna sizzle my brain on the grill.
Or
Crazy detractor stuff, actually.
oh, I mean, you know, just the usual stuff, you know, complaining about, you know, how I mean, I saw one today that there was some like text message thing that I think you're going to mention this with.
Oh yeah. Okay, so basically, Dick Master. So like Yellow Flash's DMs got leaked. I mean, I just take a guess of which two people did it. You know, rhymes with Smina Infinity. Oops, sorry, and Dick Ricada. Just maybe might be those two people. Who knows? I'm just DMs like that. So basically, a part of his got leaked where it says where Eric says to someone, Yellow Flash, sometimes the stars just align like that. That's all he said. So from that, you wouldn't even know who he's talking about because there's no other follow-up message there. It's just a board of DMs from a list of people. Because obviously, if you're big as Yellow Flash, a lot of people DM you, and you have your friends at the top because, you know, other people are just not as important. Happens with bigger content creators. Yellow Flash puts out a following image. They're talking about his comic book. And Dick Masterson said, oh, he's talking about Nick Ricada. First of all, you wouldn't know that in general if he was. And if he was, who gives a fuck, personally? But how would you know who he's talking about? This is how, like, people are so beyond self-absorbed. They think everything is about either one of their friends or them. You couldn't just be talking about anybody else because you're the only person that matters. It's like, oh, God, my brain just can't handle it. Just people. And then there's idiots out there who just only look at a situation from that point of view because that's how stupid average people are. We know this, given the COVID situation that just happened. Average people only look at the first brunt of the information coming out and they don't care the back end of it. That's all that matters to them. You know, he could put out a tweet like that and goes, oh, he's talking shit about someone behind the scenes. See, what we were saying is true. It's like, and then the average person doesn't follow up with that. He's not going to give you the follow-up information with context. His only portion of his, what he's trying to show you was just bullshit. You know, I wish average people weren't stupid, man. I really wish. Only a man can dream, actually.
Yeah, it's just a lot of drama farming, so it's all silly.
Because I wanted to ask you about the Libertarian stuff too, because the Libertarian Party just had a big situation that I'll let you talk about right now. Because that was I was like, he probably better explain that than me. Apparently, your group is a political party now, and you elected someone that believes in transing kids. Like that's what I've heard, but I could be wrong. So I'll have you explain it to me.
Sure. Yeah. So what happened is at this convention, they picked the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. In the course of things, there was, you know, people who were being voted on in this long-winded thing. We didn't participate that. We were just outside doing our tabling thing, but we're right outside the convention hall. So we watch everybody being all stressed and complaining and being frustrated. So, you know, they're doing this for hours into the night and they're doing these runoff situations where the candidate who has at least, you know, percentage votes gets knocked out. And so they're knocking out some lower people and, you know, going through piece by piece. And it's, you know, coming in close and tight to certain candidates. And the convention's relatively split. They have, you know, kind of this split between one candidate who comes from the Mises caucus. His name was Michael Rechtenwald, who's a former professor and former communist, you know, for much of his life. And he, you know, he talks to different things. And then you have this other man, whose name's Chase Oliver, who is a former restaurant manager, and I guess you could say a consultant who decided to run. So each of them, you know, oddly enough, come from kind of a left background. The Chase Oliver guy used to be an Obama supporter, and the other guy used to be a communist. So people miss that little that shared interesting history. So you know, so they're going at it and there's these different deals and stuff like that. And there was this one piece that was very, you know, contentious where there's another candidate named Mike Termott, and he decided to has put his candidacy support behind Chase Oliver. And so by the time the convention was ending, after you know, people were falling out and some people just being frustrated with everything, it ended up being a narrow margin, but, you know, Chase Oliver won. And so it was interesting to see because obviously some people, you know, it's politics. There's always going to be losers. So there's people being frustrated, this or that, but it comes with the territory every time, right? You know, there's always going to be people who feel miffed by the political games and all sort of stuff, you know, just because you're competing against a winner takes all situation, right? Just like mainstream politics. So people were not happy, you know, people who are not happy with this candidate were not happy with him because In the past, he was very critical of Mises Caucus people, and he was, calling them different names, saying that they were, bigots of various sorts, and he really distanced himself from, you could say, the socially right people, because he himself is a bit more socially left. And so, some of his positions where people get, raised eyebrows and they're concerned about is that he seemed to downplay the potential harms with the puberty blockers when it comes to kids. So he's against the actual surgeries. He thinks that surgery should be done when someone's 18 years of age. So it's just a question of, okay, could parents and doctors possibly do puberty blockers? And he seems sympathetic to that, and thinks that the government shouldn't be involved in that. Which, again, from a libertarian perspective, there is something to say about that. Like, if you're going to err on a side, erring on the side of, okay, not the government, is actually not a bad place to fall. But again, it is a concerning issue, and people are worried that he might be focused more on those things than on the liberty things. And then, he had some commentary on this or that about, going to seeing, drag shows and this or that, being, friendly with that. And so there's going to be people who are concerned about that on the left side of things, or on the right side of things, because of his socially left views. Although the rest of his other statements and principles, at least in terms of his libertarian walk, have traditionally been very libertarian. He's been consistently and openly anti-war, against the Fed, and wants to end the Fed, for gun rights, for basically government cutting the size, scope, and power of the state down, toward zero. So he's someone who is certainly in rhetoric and language and talk, at least in his libertarian path for a number of years, that's demonstrable, has been very anti, government power. It's just that his criticisms of the past and some of his socially left views, even though he doesn't want them forced by the government, have caused people concern. And there's, things that he did too, like during the lockdown shutdowns, he had his mask, he got a shot, but he did say during that time, like, the government shouldn't force these things. And he did lobby against those, saying there should be no mandates. So it's one of those tough situations where people readily see that, hey, he seems to buy too much into the mainstream narratives, and some of his social values are not in alignment with us, even though he did, consistently say the libertarian position, at least, which was, hey, government shouldn't be mandating shots. They shouldn't be mandating masks, and so on and so forth. So there's this big contention that, is around that, and people are fighting over that and, calling each other names. And I just think that, the goal should be to focus on how to make this as positive as possible, as, best messaging opportunity as possible. We can't change the past of what he said and did. So he's there. That's it. Make the best, make the most of it. Try to encourage him to focus on the real libertarian issues, being anti-war, anti-Fed, changing minds as effectively as he can for those things, maybe leaving aside maybe some of the social issue things and just making that less of a focus, just to focus on the real anti-state things. I think that would be very unifying. And he certainly has done things, for what I've seen at least, to be unifying. He messaged the other candidate, Reckton Wald, and just said, hey, can we work together on being anti-war? That's such an important thing right now with what's going on in the world, which definitely is. So, that's just my hope, is that people kind of relax a bit and remember that this is the libertarian candidate who, in all likelihood, is not coming anywhere close to winning anything. So
yeah.
It's like, oh, right. That's, yeah. So how do you make the most of the opportunity? I think that's the focus, right? Instead of just constantly yelling stuff like that, I would say take the positive angle, be encouraging, look to promote the good things, the best parts of him, if he's going to be out there messaging and representing the brand, not that he is the philosophical route, but just, the LP, that kind of thing. And just making the best show possible, right? Trying to get people educated on the core principles of the LP. I think that would be good. And that would be a nice outcome from that.
Because I think people got to realize, given how the political landscape has just been swinging, there's only two people that are even going to be in the running at this point. How did you feel about RFK Jr.? Because he's still attempting to run, and it's like, dude, it's not there, man. Like, I feel like a lot of these people, if they had just not ran right now, would have had a bigger showing the next election we have. We like Vivek. I think him and Ron DeSantis ran at just the wrong time. Honestly, I don't think Tim Scott should be running, honestly. There were some real joke people up there in that first GOP debate. I'm like, bro, why are some of these people here? Nikki Haley fucking tweeting, 12 guys down, one more to go. I'm like, yeah, that lady's trying to run for president. Just imagine our woman potential president in a hypothetical world on like Earth 3 or some shit is tweeting 12 guys down, 3 to go. It's like, yeah, kind of proving us right about if a woman was president, what she would be doing for power. Just saying, you know, I don't like ever being that guy to be like, man, you kind of prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong. I want you not to do those things. I'm not saying these things because I want to be proven right. It's like, oh God, man, fucking hell. What did you think about the Donald Trump conviction that happened it was last week actually?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, given where he was charged and what all went down. Certainly, the New York courts and the New York law was going to be leveraged as best as possible to convict him on whatever they could, because it is a warfare situation. So it's everything's being thrown at Trump to basically try to stop him from running. And of course, with that, inherently, it creates even more people wanting to support him, right? One of those blowback things that the Dems don't exactly fully internalize yet is that, as they try to strike him, they are also making him out to be, in the public eye, seen as more of a bigger victim. And of course, it's fundraising opportunities. So people are donating millions and millions of dollars to him because of that. So it's getting interesting. It is going to be curious to see what they end up doing with sentencing, how things go forward. I think it's just going to be wild. I don't see how people, will be able to meaningfully move the needle, with everything that's gone on, just looking at the past situations in terms of, I want to be careful with the language I use here, just for YouTube, but the things that people did.
Say whatever you want.
Oh, we're on Rumble right now?
Yeah, I'm on Rumble and Twitch. You can say whatever you want.
Oh, okay, great. Well, then I'll just say straight. Okay, well then all the election fraud. Okay, so There we go. So yeah, I didn't realize that this wasn't also simultaneously going to YouTube. Okay, so basically, with the election fraud, that stuff has not fully been, I guess you could say, fixed in a sense. There's always been election fraud, of course. It's just gotten much bigger with the mail-in ballots exceptions and things like that. And since the census, House of Representative accountings haven't changed with all the shifting demographics of people moving from blue states who are, Republican or whatever to red states, there's still going to be this kind of difficulty where there's lots of just wide open corruption in the blue states that of course they want that. And as we saw, with Biden, the late night, vote tallies, not that voting is all legitimate or anything in the first place. It's just interesting to analyze and look at how people are playing these things. On one case, like, yeah, voting is the solution, but on the other case, like, but voting's all manipulated and fraud. So it's like, how is this going to, turn out for you? I don't know, but it's very clear that Trump is certainly garnering all the support he can from every angle, and he's been effective at doing so. Just saying that independently, he has been really good at for himself gaining sympathy from as many people as possible and building up that last rung for his run. So it's going to be interesting to see what all comes of that. I personally think that he probably would win the popular vote, just in true human being alive fashion. But when you have dead grandmas voting and everything else that goes on, it's who knows what's going to happen with all that. It's going to be really interesting to see. So I don't know.
Yeah. One of the guys that I have on my league podcast is like, man, my dead grandpa voted. He's been dead since like 1980. So I was like, what the hell? Like, the fact that dead people are voting goes to show you there was something wrong with this election. Even more news comes out about that, where it's like, there were some cities and states that didn't even accept certain ballots. What's the point of voting if they're not even going to accept it? That is an actual waste of time, a waste of your day, a waste of everything to deal with. There's already enough to deal with in a day in general, and to know that half the people that were accepting the ballots and taking them in weren't even taking all of them in. It's like, what is this? This is trash. And to see so many people say, oh, it wasn't election fraud. It's like, you were living under a rock. You're just a bot. You're an NPC. Like, what are you talking about? If you said your dead relative voted, yeah, okay, and you agree there wasn't fraud, you're on crack. Just point it out there. Anybody believes that, you're on drugs. Okay,
well,
get off crack.
Every election is a fraud, but the fraud levels of vote counts, that always depends on how dire things get. So ever since 2016 and Hillary and that whole situation where the Democrats, thought that they had everything lined up and on lock, and and they thought that they could just get away with whatever, like, oh, whatever, this will be fine. I think that they've gotten a bit more desperate to try to do everything they can to manipulate the electoral process, at the ballot box itself. So that's just why. I mean, I'm a voluntarist. I'm an ANCAP. I think outside the state, but it is entertaining to watch people have all their projections and what they think is going to happen, despite this backdrop of absolute insanity. So,
what do you think about the? Oh, good Lord, I would say this: the situation that happened with Mr. Fauci, where it was revealed that did a lot of lying and a lot of lying that ruined a lot of lives. And I was thinking, man, you know what's really bad about it? It's because he obviously is a terrible person. He's a piece of shit. But the fact that the news were told to say these things, people on the news broadcast at the time told all these people all this shit, put fear in their heart, put fear in their hearts, and scared everybody and ruined everything. Like, is there a reason for anyone to really consume mainstream media news anymore, knowing they're also all, maybe except one, bought and paid for outside of like Fox, and even that's debatable in and of itself with who runs them? Actually, news just could literally say at this point now, jump off a bridge, you will be caught by a flying unicorn and it will fly you to heaven, and people would do it because they're that stupid. He even said the social distancing shit he just made it up. So fuck. At this point, you could just be saying anything and people just believe it. And then you got all these like anti-vax people. Like, I'm so glad I didn't fall for none of that trash. No vax, nothing. So glad I didn't take that garbage. People out here dying just randomly of heart attacks. They're like, oh yeah, that's just normal. No, I'm pretty sure that's not just normal. So what have you thought about the recent Anthony Fauci discovery?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's nothing new. We knew he was lying from the beginning. In our music videos, we actually covered that back in 2020, 2021 with Mask Order and Disobey. We made a lot of fun, funny skits about those lies and manipulations, and just telling people in rap form, what they were. But the media has just been a tool of government propaganda for a very long time. If you look at Operation Mockingbird, this was a specific government program that really took extra, reins on that. And actually, the Philosopher has a good video on this as well, talking about how many of the news heads within the big corporate news channels like CNN, how they have a lot of ex-deep state people, ex-NSA heads or CIA heads who are their talking heads for, foreign events or foreign policy or domestic, security issues, this or that. So basically, the news is not really the news, and it hasn't been for pretty much always. I mean, in fact, it's framings of whatever those in the government and those corporate collusions want to put onto people, and they'll say some truths and they'll say some falsehoods and they'll say some misframings to get people to think that they're informed, but really it's leading them to a certain direction that the government wants them to act on. So all of it is really just predictive programming or direct programming.
Even when Vivek Ramaswamy went on to CNN, because he's the politician that'll go and talk to people that disagree with him or don't have the same viewpoints as him, when he tried to tell people the truth about January 6th, and then you had the person that was running the event, you would say, that CNN was hosting, she was trying to get him to, not tell people. It's like, what is wrong with the people that run everything now? Like, the Epstein client, people on the Epstein client list, we still don't have that released to us because I'll be honest here, it's probably some high profile people that a lot of people like, a lot of people know, and they don't want that ever getting out. I mean, all the person we know is just Bill Clinton, but that's pretty easy because, it's kind of taking pictures there. So that's pretty incriminating right there. That no one charged on that. Anthony Fauci potentially maybe gets off no charges. There was the guy that had fucking gay butt sex in the Senate. Remember that earlier this year?
I'm trying to forget it still, but yes.
Me too. Yeah. No charges there. He just kind of like,
he was charged from behind.
Like, just nothing happens to these people, dude. It's crazy. They could literally go outside and just straight up murder people right in front of people's eyes, and you'd have other people defending them. No, they didn't really mean to do it. It was the white supremacy that did it. What?
Yeah, it's just because when it comes to the higher levels of government, what really actually happens is that many of these people have very deep connections and ties through really grotesque forms of this kind of veil of silence, essentially. So they engage in orgies, or they'll engage in types of ritualistic sacrifices or ceremonies and other things like that basically make them on this in group that you can't ever talk about this or you'll be blackmailed, that kind of thing. So, the higher up you go in government and the more sinister it becomes with a lot of these people, and, the things that they do behind closed doors. And so that's how come, in many ways, they're easy to blackmail in certain situations. You think like Epstein, the only reason you could even get blackmail on these people is because they are that perverse and they are that wicked, right? The things that they do, they do those things because that's what they want to do. And then it puts them in a compromising situation where they can be manipulated. And I say manipulated loosely because really it's just the product of their evils, just like with Hunter Biden and what he would do with the young girls, and keeping his
just like with Joe Biden. Remember, right. They aren't even gonna put him on trial because of something about his age or some BS like that. Like that's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, they just let that go with the documents handling. Yeah, so that's just how those things work. Is that in this sphere of influence, what it takes for people to psychologically be accepting of how they manipulate people, and they put on these different faces to people all the time. They're like addicted to this power, and they're addicted to manipulating people and putting on this like kind of facade that gets them so wound up that they then release from that stress of trying to put on this face by doing the craziest stuff behind closed doors. So that's what creates this kind of circle of silence, and that's why it's hard to ever get justice, is because a lot of these people, again, the higher up you go, the more it gets perverse, the more it gets really, really dirty with people doing stuff. And sometimes we just get glimpses of it, right here and there. You get a little crack into it where someone gets caught because in the wrong place, or someone gets compromised, and so they're decided to be cut off. I even think of like in Florida, there was this guy back in the day who was running against DeSantis named Andrew Gillum, right? He's married, I think he has kids, and they caught him with a gay hooker. He was passed out in this floor, I think it was Miami or something like that, and he, was all, I don't know which drug he was passed out from, but essentially drugged out with a gay hooker. Right. And he's like trying to be like, yeah, I'm a family man, I'm here for So it's so common and it's so ridiculous that most people couldn't even handle that. Like they think about like, oh, what would happen if you knew about if there was aliens or something like that? Like forget about the aliens. What's alien is that most of your people in power that are put in front.
I'm glad you brought that up. Everyone's talking about UFOs and aliens and all that bullshit, and it's like, first of all, I don't believe aliens exist. That's just me. Until I can see an alien right in front of me, that's when I'll believe it. I'm not one of the people that'll be like, well, would you see it? Would you believe it? Yeah, obviously, if there was a fucking alien in front of me, I'd probably pass out and die from a heart attack seeing an alien. But people are all, man, what is UFO? Oh, it's all distraction. Guys, aliens don't exist, okay? And if they do, they ain't coming here. They got better plans to visit than this dog shit. Like, we're talking about aliens and UFOs and all that stuff, and it's just a distraction from what's really going on, All like the whole Israel-Palestine thing. I don't know if you have opinions on that, but that situation has been happening. I mean, most people that I've talked to trying to get a general consensus of it, they don't like what's going on, but most of them have this opinion that I've been talking to a little bit, just a little bit. They've been, why not just send all this money to us, They give all this money to these other countries, and I guess foreign treaties or whatever bullshit that is, and they're saying it stabilizes the economy if you help out other countries and all that nonsense, even like that stupid rule. Like, I never agree with that stuff either. People, they're like, well, it's always been this way, and it helps, and it's like, well, can we not, like, change it? Because it's stupid. It sounds stupid. Can we, like, not change this at all? But we have to do it because it's just what's been tradition. We help out other people that we have treaties with. It's just kind of how the nations work. And we could have money being sent here to people like us. So, like, why are people I'll ask you this. Why do you think people are so apprehensive of giving money to help out people here? It feels like that shouldn't be a conversation. That should be like, okay, I'll help people here first. We'll take care of ourselves first,
Well, I wish I could answer it at length. I'll give a quick answer because I got to wrap it up here because my other appointment's coming up. But, basically when it comes to foreign aid and all this other stuff, just like you see in Ukraine, everywhere else, it's about supporting other governmental powers, so people in power who can then help those who are in power in another place stay in power, right? So essentially it's kind of, people in positions of power around the world wanting to help each other out, kind of like little handshake deals, essentially, to help make sure that whoever is in power stays there and keeps rivals out. That's kind of the smallest brass tacks aspect to that. That's why they do that. Is it's all about manipulation for their own security, right? So their own respective positions of power. And I think, when it comes to all this stuff, the government should not be stealing our money and giving it to all these different countries and sending weapons to all these different governments. We should be keeping our money, and those, conflicts and situations are, A, not our business, but B, they'd be better solved through free markets and property rights. And that should be the goal, right? If you're doing anything less than moving toward a libertarian order, then you're just creating a new government or creating a new structure that has just more state violence. You haven't actually solved the root issue. So,
which means less black police officers for you in your time. Because I forgot you're ANCAP. You don't believe in the police force. Actually,
I believe a police in a transition would be most ethical if they are paid voluntarily and only deal with crimes that have victims. So in other words, it has to be things like robbery, theft, rape, that kind of thing, murder. It's not, oh, hey, you have a little bit of weed, or, oh, hey, you have a gun and we don't like the people who have guns. There has to actually be a physical victim, someone who defrauded another or who used physical violence against another, that kind of thing. So,
well, as we wrap this up, last two things. Got anything planned coming up in 2024 that people should know about, and anything else you want to say?
Yeah, real quick. We are going to do another voluntarist campaign later this year for Suit Saga 2. We have, fingers crossed, the ability to launch our next comic series line in the voluntarist, ANCAP Comics universe, VolunCap. So definitely check that out. Our next kids book should be out later this year. We have the End the Fed music video we're working on right now, so it'll come out in maybe a few months after we've done the post-production on that. So we got a lot going on. Just stay tuned at Jack JCK V as in voluntarist, Jack V Lloyd, LLOYD, jackvlloyd.com, and of course, comic website volcomic.com, V as in victory, VOLCOMIC.com.
Yeah, and any shout outs you want to give to anyone in particular? Anything else you want to say before we head out?
Yeah, my wife. I hope my wife's doing well, the philosopher.
God. And I'd asked your wife got any single hot friends she wants to throw my way, actually? Rich single bachelor such as myself,
I don't know. I haven't seen her too many, but she does have one. You never know.
I forgot. People over there, they do the whole like, you better be doctor. And they're like, well, I'll be a fat disappointment. Just that is not happening. I'd be like that guy where you're going to the family reunion and be like, hey, that's your husband. Oh. But yeah, thank you guys for checking this out. It was great to talk to Jack once again, and we'll see you guys later. Goodbye, everyone. Peace. Goodbye.